incredible dust storm to engulf Phoenix.
And as those winds come down out of the storm, they blow across the ground.
A tropical storm in the Pacific could impact California weather.
This actually could move into parts of Southern California by early Thursday morning.
More roads destroyed by Hurricane Helene are finally reopening.
We see the light at the end of the tunnel.
And we'll improve your weather IQ in today's edition of Social Meteorology.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. Monsoonal moisture brought flooding to parts of Nevada on Tuesday, and there's a threat of more heavy rain, gusty winds, and even hail today. This was the scene in the Reno area last night, and you can see the water filled many local streets. Several got stuck in the water, with at least one having to be towed. Thankfully, though, no one was hurt. Crews spent the day clearing storm drains, hoping it would help the water quickly go away. Well, over in southern Utah, flash flood warnings impacted visitors to Zion National Park. While the rain was needed, it can quickly turn deadly, especially in a slot canyon. Liv Kelleher reports.
But the thrill is that if we have a wet day, you have these what they call ephemeral waterfalls that are here today and gone tomorrow.
For visitors like Sean Green, who has lived near Zion for over a decade, rain brings the canyon to life. But he says those unfamiliar with desert weather shouldn't underestimate the risks.
I literally meet people from all over the world, and one reason they're here is I want to hike the Narrows. I've come all the way from the Netherlands, and the Narrows is closed. But from a common sense point of view and a safety point of view, you really need to be aware of the weather.
The National Weather Service issued a flash flood warning for Zion. A short time later, the Narrows and all other slot canyons were closed.
So if you're in the Narrows or something similar and you see the water changing color, you're hearing roaring sounds, the water's starting to get frothy, that's a pretty good indication that there may be a flash flood coming.
Rangers say they post daily flash flood ratings at the visitor center and trailheads, warning visitors about the risks even before a closure is issued.
So we try and arm visitors with as much information as possible prior to choosing to enter the Narrows on any given day.
Since 2010, 11 people have died in flash floods at Zion, most recently in the Narrows just 3 years ago. Officials say if there's any chance of rain, it's best to reschedule slot canyon hikes.
Ultimately, while we will do our best to help you out, you are the one that is responsible for your own safety.
Well, the rain is thanks to an annual pattern known as monsoon season. Utah meteorologist Lindsay Storr helps us better understand how these storms form.
Monsoon season is when a ridge of high pressure sets up near the Four Corners region. You get a clockwise flow around high pressure, and that clockwise flow taps into tropical moisture down here off the coast of Baja California and yanks it right up into Arizona, Utah, and Nevada. And the result, as you can see here on the satellite and radar, is some pretty big thunderstorms. We call these monsoon thunderstorms. So let me explain how these monsoon thunderstorms form. So we've got our land here. This is the desert Southwest with all that moisture being poured into it. Very, very high water vapor in the atmosphere. Then we heat it up with our intense July and August sunshine. And when you heat up an air mass, it becomes less dense, which allows it to rise. So with all that water vapor rising in the atmosphere, it cools, it condenses, and you get these thunderstorms that pop up each afternoon and evening right during the peak heating of the day. That's what happens every summer in the desert Southwest.
Well, much of the nation is still talking about that massive dust storm that engulfed Phoenix Monday night. Now, the dust was so thick that it plunged the region into darkness in the late afternoon. Visibility was reduced to 50 feet or less. The haboob was so big it forced Sky Harbor International Airport to stop all takeoffs and landings for an hour. Strong winds then arrived, with one gust measuring 94 miles per hour. Meteorologist John Gum takes us inside the dust storm.
Well, dust storms can be disruptive, and they can even be deadly. These are formed by strong winds. Oftentimes, these winds come from a thunderstorm. And as those winds come down out of the storm, they blow across the ground, and that ground is where the dust is, obviously, and the wind picks up that dust and throws it up into the air. And this can cause major, major issues, obviously. Not just air quality issues, but in some cases reducing visibility to near nothing. Hazardous driving is something we've seen out of these as well. It's similar to a whiteout with snow. You can't even see your hand in front of your face, and we can get multi-car pileups sometimes with these dust storms. Also, something else, it can cause mechanical issues for planes, and as I mentioned, breathing and health issues can even be created by dust storms. Something more common west of the Mississippi River, but as we've seen, they can even occur east of the Mississippi River if conditions are right.
Well, tracking the tropics now, and the Atlantic is still remarkably quiet for late August. What's left of Tropical Storm Fernand will dissipate by Friday with no threat to land. But over in the Pacific, 3 new areas of interest could form into storms. And then there's Juliet, which could impact weather in California. Meteorologist Ilya Neiman has details.
This system is currently moving northwest. It made the turn. Yesterday it was west-northwest. Now it's northwest at 10. Does not seem like a lot, but the computer models are expecting that this thing will start to accelerate a tad. And as that occurs, this northwesterly to northerly journey may actually take it somewhere closer than further away. This actually could move into parts of Southern California by early Thursday morning, and some of this activity could, I repeat, could affect even further north as well, because there's a low pressure system west of California that's drawing up this moisture from the south. Normally these systems dissipate and go out to sea, but this time the low is toward west, and so it's acting almost like a pulley system that's pulling this moisture northward. So it'll be interesting to see if these computer progs actually bear fruit, and there's a chance that there could be tropical remnant activity in the form of clouds and maybe showers and thunderstorms and rain into southern and maybe central California later on this week from Juliet.
Well, in southwest Montana, rain has been a welcome sight. Firefighters battling 2 lightning-sparked wildfires after seeing improvements because of better weather. Josh Margolis reports from the front of the fire lines.
Pretty much have line all the way around Bivens with a combination of natural features in here, up in the mountains. We have a combination of dozer lines, hand lines. We had the fire held up, checked with retardant on this far east side, and then we actually got a dozer down there and reinforced that.
And while the Cloud Rest fire made a run to the southwest, crews took advantage of wet weather to get ahead of the blaze by using controlled burning.
Keep our fingers crossed, but that should park the fire for some good time. And so hopefully we're successful with that.
But with rain comes a potential problem, as a flash flood watch for Wednesday afternoon could be an issue for boots on the ground.
With precipitation rates that can be elevated, can lead to flash floods as well as burn-scarred debris flows. So these are things that we have to take into account when we are talking to our firefighters that are out there on the line.
We're here, anything you need, of course. Our office is top priority. We're monitoring all the fires, not just in the state, actually nationally, since this is our responsibility in the Senate.
And while the prognosis for these fires continues to improve, these communities aren't out of the woods yet. That's why when the current incident management team departs this weekend, a new incident management team is expected to take their place to make sure the job is completed.
We've got tactics that are being successful and strategies. We're looking out weeks ahead. Should this fire continue, we've got plans to be ahead of it to take this off the landscape and put everybody back to normal so we don't have to worry about this.
And coming up tomorrow, we're dedicating this show to the 20th anniversary of Katrina. We'll look back at what happened and what's changed in the 20 years since. We'll also hear from meteorologists who worked through the storm, including one whose wife went into labor just one day before landfall. So join us on Thursday as we remember Katrina. Well, coming up here on the National Weather Desk, it has been 11 months since Hurricane Helene wreaked havoc on western North Carolina. We'll look at some of the recovery efforts that are still going on. And we'll tell you why the FDA says mousse sunscreens could pose a risk to your health.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. It's another day with highs in the 70s in the Northeast. Today under a partly sunny sky. There may be a passing afternoon shower. That's about 2:30 in the afternoon. That chance is greatest in northern New England and probably eastern parts of Massachusetts. Skies will be partly to mostly sunny on Thursday for most of the area, but western New York will start to get some of those showers and storms moving in. Another round of showers and thunderstorms should be moving into New England on Friday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. It looks like it's going to be gorgeous weather continuing through your Wednesday and Thursday. High pressure will continue to settle in, meaning hardly any rainfall to speak of. The only chance may be a stray shower on Thursday afternoon, far closer to the coast. And then a cold front's going to approach on Friday to bring maybe a few showers, but it looks pretty dry. Temperature is chilly to start, but in the mid-70s, upper 70s in the afternoon. Still beautiful on Thursday, upper 70s, low 80s.
Hi, meteorologist Jennifer Collins here with your southeast forecast. Hot one as we head into Wednesday with temperatures in the low 90s across the Florida Peninsula and along the Gulf Coast too. Meanwhile, the low to mid 80s for parts of the Carolinas, into the 70s for the mountains of the Carolinas, and then into the mid and upper 80s even across parts of northern Georgia and Alabama too. Mainly dry through Wednesday for the Carolinas and for much of the Gulf Coast too, but a stalled frontal boundary over central Florida will keep scattered showers and thunderstorms in the forecast across South Florida.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, it's been 11 months since Helene wreaked havoc on western North Carolina and parts of Tennessee. The storm caused extensive flooding and left behind staggering damage. In eastern Tennessee, an interstate that was partially reopened will return to full service soon. Caleb Pern has more.
1 to 2 weeks is how long state officials say is left until Interstate 26 fully reopens in Irwin. The bridges over the Nolichucky River were destroyed by Helene and then partially reopened with just one lane in each direction. Now crews are paving each side, working on the final touches.
Punch list items, I mean, really we see the light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to I-26 in Unicoi County.
The pair of bridges are one of 4 remaining projects TDOT is working on after Helene, compared to 49 when the storm hit. Baker Construction posting these new photos of progress on Highway 321 on the Carter and Johnson County line. Officials say it will likely be finished in November.
That is a massive amount of work that has been taking place. They have pipe installation that they're working on, retaining walls, so more paving to do. So there's a lot more work to be done there.
Nagy posted these photos online Thursday of the construction work to restore Interstate 40. It's much more involved.
You had 7 separate sections on the eastbound side of the roadway that were partially washed away.
Those repairs are expected to take until next summer. And Nagy says work is also now underway on the State Route 353 bridge in Washington County, Tennessee. He believes it should be finished in mid-May.
Well, now to central New York, where the Great New York State Fair is underway, but severe weather put a temporary damper on things Sunday. Lots of people were already inside the fairgrounds and others were on their way in. Mary Keeler has more on behind-the-scenes efforts to keep folks safe when the weather turns bad.
New York State Fair Director Julie Lefebvre says the forecast prompted action hours before the storm. Staff started going around to vendors to make sure they're signed up for the fair's new text alert system.
We actually proactively started walking stand to stand because our vendors is one of the quickest way to get the message out. There's customers in line for them. So we walked stand by stand, making sure they were all enrolled in it. Because if we have this text alert system and no one is enrolled, it really does us no good.
Then they made the decision to temporarily close the main gates to newcomers. But the decision to make adjustments due to weather doesn't fall on one person. How does that all happen?
The fair makes the decision, but it is a decision made with the advice and wisdom of our partners who specialize in all of those things. We talked to the weather service, we talked to the troopers, we talked to the Syracuse parking service. Everybody who's out there managing some aspect of the fair, we rely on their knowledge and then we make the decision, but we make the decision together.
There are also National Weather Service meteorologists on site each day of the fair.
Whether, going to shut down rides, take, precautions in terms of the vendors, all that information can get to them in that critical time. And again, taking out that, kind of communication, that phone chain that we're here, that's really the one big advantage of having us on site.
Well, summer is winding down, but if you plan to spend time outside, keep your sunscreen handy. There's a warning from the Food and Drug Administration about whipped formulas of sunscreen. Medical reporter Liz Bonus tells us why the agency is expressing concern.
Got a lotion you like with a high sun protective factor or SPF? Have at it. Hope Mers of Ohio's Advanced Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center says keep using it. Her suggestion?
Really just 30 or higher. The 70s, the 100s, it's such a minute fraction of extra protection. You really don't need to worry about that. Anything 30 or higher is great.
But when it comes to mousses, whips, or foams, Hope has a word of caution. So do FDA drug specialists. In this post on X, the FDA says these products in mousse form may not be as effective as some of the thicker formulas. They recently sent this warning letter to several companies about labeling that make these products.
If you have even the same exact ingredients in a cream that's already been approved and you make that component into a mousse preparation, they're going to have to approve that as well, because if you think of a mousse like even for, your hair or any kind of other cream, it puts air into it. So that might not be as comprehensive as a block on top of the skin.
She suggests if you are going to be in the sun, you layer with heavy sunscreen lotions first, and then spot touch up only with lighter formulas.
Well, time now for a segment we call Social Meteorology. This is where we highlight social media content from our team of 200 meteorologists. And today we start with Christina Ernie and the connections between weather and school buses.
It is back to school time, and weather affects buses and bus drivers more than the average car. Because buses are larger and heavier than a typical vehicle, they require a longer stop time. In wet conditions like rain, they require a 3 to 9 times longer stop distance than under dry conditions. Winds are a big hazard too, since the surface area of a bus is so great. 40-mile-per-hour winds or greater pose the biggest risk to buses. 24% of weather-related vehicle crashes actually occur on snowy or slushy or even icy pavement, and 15% happen during snowfall or sleet. Plus, for electric buses, the battery life drops over 30% in colder weather. That's temperatures at 25 degrees or lower. So bottom line, it's a good idea to give buses a little more lead time if you're driving near them in case they need to slow down or take a wider turn just to keep our precious cargo safe.
We always talk about warm fronts and cold fronts, but do you know exactly what they are? Let's break it down here. Okay, we're going to start with the cold front here, for example. Think about a strong cold front, right? A lot of cold air behind it, whether it's in the winter or a early spring or late fall. So when you have this cold front, you have very cold air. Cold air is more dense than warm air, so it's going to be found kind of closer to the surface. That's going to allow warm air to move over cold air because it's less dense. Now, as those cold fronts sweep in, you're going to get kind of a northerly wind behind. That's where we see that wind direction change, but out ahead of a cold front, that's typically a southerly wind. A front provides a source of lift, so with that rising air out ahead of that front, you can get strong storms to form.
Finally, we're starting to see some of this monsoon moisture move up into the desert southwest. Initially, these storms might produce more microburst winds rather than rain. Let me explain how these winds are created. As monsoon thunderstorms develop, they can pull in dry air that may be nearby the thunderstorm. This dry air then evaporates some of the rain within that thunderstorm. When water evaporates like this, it can significantly cool the air within the thunderstorm cloud. Since cool air is denser than warm air, it starts to fall and begins to accelerate. This air then hits the ground and is forced outward. These type of winds are called microburst winds, and they can be upwards of 100 miles per hour at times. They can even uproot trees and damage property. So if you see a thunderstorm cloud that doesn't produce much rain, but it does produce some very strong winds, you'll now understand the physics behind it.
Well, as we go to break, views of the iconic Brooklyn Bridge.
Well, a very good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Temperatures kind of all over the place for us. We got a lot of 70s and 80s across the Midwest for the day today, but a little cooler in some places like Wichita, where you're getting some of that rain today. As we head into the day tomorrow, temperatures warming up for a lot of us. Got a few showers sneaking in from the north with the coming in from Canada with the cold front. Cooling off the Great Lakes for your Friday, but warmer out across the plains.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. A little cool this morning for our friends in Amarillo and Oklahoma City. Pretty warm and humid from Brownsville all the way over into New Orleans, sitting into the 70s. A little bit of a low and a warm front will be hanging out across North Texas today. Look for humid air to move up with scattered showers from Houston back up to San Angelo. Could be a few back up into Oklahoma as well. Otherwise, it's going to be another hot and humid day. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Hey, good Wednesday morning, everybody. I'm meteorologist Stella Sun. Monsoon moisture will continue to work its way through portions of the Rocky Mountain West. Excessive rain is possible through parts of Utah, Nevada, as well as Idaho Panhandle, as well as thunderstorm chances through Denver. Daytime highs will be considerably cooler in the upper 70s from Salt Lake City through the Mile High City, 70s from LA and in San Diego, and rain chances and cloud cover also possible in Boise. That's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
All right, we'll take a look at these cool, wavy clouds. Meteorologist Teresa Carter tells us what they're called and how they form.
This is called an altocumulus undulatus. It is a mid-level cloud formation characterized by wave-like rippling patterns that appear in the form of rows or bands across the sky. These clouds typically form at altitudes between 8,000 to 20,000 feet and often indicate wind shear or instability in the atmosphere. The undulatus refers to the wavy or undulating appearance, which results from from wind currents moving at different speeds or directions at various altitudes. The presence of altocumulus undulatus may indicate precipitation within the next 24 hours or simply an overcast day.
Well, we would love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. Make it a great day, and I will see you right back here tomorrow. This is just voiceover, right? Alrighty, let's do it. Cold open for the Katrina special in 3, 2. Oh, do you want me to read? Oh, I don't have it, so you have to roll the prompter. Okay, 3, 2. Right now on a special edition of the National Weather Desk. It's been 20 years since Hurricane Katrina struck New Orleans. We'll look back at the